Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Wade and Carter Show, live from the Atzenoffer Studio in downtown Victoria, Texas. Welcome to everybody on Magic, the No Bull Network, Facebook, and YouTube. Thanks for joining us on this Tuesday, pre-Canada Day Eve. I guess it's Canada Day Eve, not pre. That would be yesterday.
Canada Day is tomorrow?
Canada Day is tomorrow.
What is Canada Day?
The day Canada was founded, July 1st, 1876. 1867.
Such a baby country.
Yep.
You know?
As is the U.S. in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Marvin Makers, Bobby Leister, Mark Kurtz on the podium. Marina missing out. Good morning, Marina. I'm Patrick Strauss, Linda Chris, Lisa Poole, Rena Scherer, BJ, David Glass, Cody Bauman. Good group checking in already. The more the merrier. Come on.
Oldest and most important country in the world, Ash. The United States.
Birthplace of Jesus, Bethlehem, Pennsylvania.
Where he wrote the King James Version of the Bible.
Yep. And then printed it on the Gutenberg press. Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But
and that version of history will never be taught in Texas schools again.
Did his half-brother James have birthright citizenship?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I don't know. The Supreme Court to rule on that today.
Yep, we'll find out. But
does it make sense to you people?
More importantly, do we need to do the weather?
Yeah, we can do the weather in a minute. The weather ain't changing.
That's true.
Does it make sense to you people?
Stick around to the end of the show for the weather
that
today.
If a Chinese communist woman can obtain a visa to be in the United States, nowhere on the form does it say, are you expecting a baby? She shows up 8.5 months pregnant. She has a 3-month visa.
I mean, if you're in this country, your doctor's going to tell you, I wouldn't advise traveling to Europe and this late in your pregnancy. That's what most doctors would tell you.
She drops the kid, and the kid automatically is an American citizen, making it very difficult when her visa runs out to deport her, because you're sending an American citizen back to a communist country.
Well, and not even back to, because if they're born here, they were never from there.
Right.
Except I guess they were in utero, but still.
The entire purpose of the amendment was to guarantee that the children of freed slaves weren't deemed or that they were deemed American.
Yep.
Which was an acquiescence, which made sense.
And that they couldn't be put on ships, go and sent back to Africa or.
I don't understand.
I don't. BJ, turn your phone up.
Why they would get sent back. That makes sense to me. There was no reason. How many of you can hear us? If you can hear us, give me a comment.
Thumbs up, something.
Something, anything.
Yeah. I
don't believe in birthright citizenship. It's never made sense to me that someone on the south side of the Rio Grande, they're from Honduras. I'm not picking on Mexico. Why can you, when you're dilated to a 6, crawl across the Rio Grande, drop your kid on the American side of the shore and go, it's an American? No, it's not.
And that's your pathway to citizenship as well.
Not an American. Send those people back.
And the funny thing is, we were perusing different networks. Thank you, Lonnie. Appreciate that. Good to see you in.
Thank
Gilbert
you.
Glenn
Hi,
checking
Lonnie.
in. Sherry Jacobs. But, we were perusing the different news channels this morning, as we always do, just to see if there's anything breaking. That's how, we found out about the Venezuela earthquakes and other things. But, the BBC's weighing in on this. It wasn't them. I think it was
birthright citizenship in the UK.
I don't know that there was, but NBC was pointing out that Canada, Mexico, and most of South America have birthright citizenship.
Do or don't?
Do.
I don't.
But
think
the thing
Mexico
is, nobody's
does.
flocking to Mexico to have a baby.
I don't think Mexico.
Nobody's
does.
flocking to Canada to have a baby anymore. They're trying to get the hell out of there.
Somebody tell me, somebody confirm. I don't believe that if you just go into Mexico and drop your kid,
I don't think it gives you a path.
No, but I don't think the kid does either.
I don't know. I'll quickly Google it. But I agree. I think
because that would make perfect sense to do. Now, I'll be honest about that. Why wouldn't you find a good doctor in Mexico? And you're an American, your spouse is an American, so your child is automatically an American. Why not just go over to a country that has, give them dual citizenship?
Yep. According to AI,
wow.
Mexico has birthright citizenship. Any child born within Mexican territory is automatically granted Mexican citizenship, regardless of the nationality or immigration status.
Well, then I think the U.S. should be a leader and refuse that. And I don't know why they would do that unless Mexico just wants more citizens. Which, by the way, Mexico, what is the population of Mexico? Look that up. It's a lot less than ours. The Wade and Carter weather brought to you by the great folks at AT Deerland Feed. For everything you need, there's Deerland Feed. It's 78 degrees in Victoria, Texas, under what will be sunny skies all day long, with a high today of 92.
About a third of where we are.
Think about that. You think about Mexico, you think about crowded streets, you think about
133 million people, according to the Google.
The population of the entire country of Mexico is only 3 times that of the state of Texas. And 20-something million of them live in one city. How many people live in Mexico City?
I guess 10 million?
I think it's more than that. Let's see if I can go 2 for 2.
9.2.
I'm wrong.
I was
9.2 million. You were close. But were you the closest without going over?
No, I went over. Okay. I did not win the showcase, and I did not win any prizes.
Let's see what he gets, Bob.
Parting gifts.
Right. Take, what was that lady's name? Carol. Take Carol Merrill with you. She's 96 years old.
No, I think that, the other one that I think yesterday got some people mad was the 5-4 ruling that allowed Mississippi to continue to basically collect mail-in ballots for however long it takes to get them all in, right?
Well, see, I think there's a lot of things. Like, I thought that I was upset with the Supreme Court over their 5-4 race. So you got the 3 liberals and then Amy Coney Barrett and John Roberts, who both sided with the 3 leftists and said, hey, which, by the way, I hate that stereotype, because the law is the law. It's not really about interpretation. It's about reviewing precedent. And that matters in this discussion. And here's why. The 5-4 ruling, I believe, Ash, is actually, I think they got it right. I think that, for example, some states are not guaranteeing anymore that when you put something in the mailbox by 4:30 on that day, that it gets postmarked that day.
Yeah.
So it opens the door to corruption for me to say, oh man, I've got to go get my mail-in ballot into the mail. It goes into the same mailbox as everything else. Somebody's water bill, somebody's electric bill, a letter to grandma. And if they just don't get around to postmarking it that day, there's no law that says they have to postmark it that day, all of a sudden your ballot is void. The Supreme Court saying essentially that for the states to say, we will accept this provided it's postmarked up to 5 days later, we'll review it up to 5 days later, is essentially them saying, hey, there's a human factor here. And the Supreme Court is saying, well, you didn't present us. We're not here to say 5 days is okay, 8's too many,
3 is not enough.
We're here to rule on legislation. And until the Congress gives them a law that says, unless you're military, disabled, in the hospital, or advise us 6 months in advance you're going to be out of the country on vacation, you have to have this in our possession by election day.
Yeah. Justice Samuel Alito in the dissent said that this opens the door to voter fraud and further undermines Americans' faith in the integrity of the country's elections. I kind of lean with you on this one because up until 2020, there really were no issues, and Texas allowed you if you had to request the ballot,
right?
You had to have a verifiable reason why you couldn't get to the polls. That's the bigger problem. I think this is because Americans have become fat and lazy and don't want to get off their asses to go vote. Well, that's more what the mail-in ballot has become. Well, if you're just too inconvenienced to actually go and perform your civic duty in person, just sit home. We'll send you one. And there's the other problem. They just send them to everybody in some states now. You used to have to request it. And until 2020, that all changed.
But here's the problem. If you allow the polls to close, and if the guys like Bill Posey, or even they begin the preliminary counts of votes that have been received, and all of a sudden you find out that, wow, Ken Paxton is leading James Tallarico by 8 votes. Wow. All of a sudden, that is a fettering of the marketplace, right? The leftist at home goes, oh, I want Tallarico. So they drag out their ballot and vote. It's a reactionary thing. It doesn't make the conservative person at home say, well, I've got to vote right now, because they're like, oh, well, look, Paxton's going to win. So it's an unfair thing that you can't control the information that's going to come out after the election. So if you have that window too open, that's a problem. So here's what the president, rather than just say, wow, I hate that, he did point out, I believe correctly, this makes the SAVE Act even that much more important. If we're going to let everybody vote forever, at least let's make certain that they're all Americans. And the idea that a guy like John Cornyn is against it just makes me befuddled. I don't understand how anybody can suggest that. I don't care if you have never registered to vote and you get married and all of a sudden you decide you want to be registered to vote and you've got to go get a birth certificate and 9 forms. I don't care. Do it for your country. If that's the worst thing you ever have to do to make sure that some Guatemalan felon doesn't vote in our elections, then get off your ass and get it done.
Or to at least cancel out their vote.
Right.
But
walk on through here, Sheriff Boss. We need you.
I agree with you. And the fact that John Cornyn is worried about Senate rules
all of a sudden,
as opposed to the law or fixing the law, this tells you why he is on his way out the door of the Senate. If John Cornyn would have been this vociferous and stood up for things that Republicans believe in, not just him, he might still have his seat. He might have been an effective legislator the last 10 years.
Yeah.
But he's become that guy that, that kid that gets pulled out of the classroom and sent to detention, kicking and screaming. He just doesn't want to go. And now all of a sudden he finds he's got a backbone and wants to stand up to people. Ridiculous.
We're joined by a man overwhelmingly elected by women of foreign citizenship
and mail-in ballots
between the ages of 25 and 54. Our own sheriff and state representative from House District 30, A.J. Louderback. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Well, I see y'all are a little fired up this morning.
We're in rare form this morning.
Absolutely.
We've actually I know that you've got enough going on running the state with the Supreme Court ruling 5-4 yesterday that states kind of have the ability to manage their own elections. And that's one argument of it. The other being that the Supreme Court doesn't make laws, they interpret laws. So until you bring me something that says we don't believe that, would the Supreme Court have ruled that it was constitutional if there was a national law that says every ballot unless it's in transport from our military folks overseas, somebody who's bedridden, somebody who's in the hospital sick, or somebody who's out of the country on vacation. Those votes all have to be in the House by election day. And then the Supreme Court would probably say, yeah, that's constitutional. You can make that rule. Plan accordingly.
Well, you make too much sense, Brent.
Well, yes, sir. We try. How are things? I know you've been busy. I saw where you were involved yesterday, and we're going to start teaching more social studies in our schools.
Yes, we are.
That's excellent. Tell us what.
I think it's a great move by the State Board of Education. So we definitely have some things going in our direction. And to go back to y'all's prior point, the mail-in ballots here in Texas the state of Texas has done some extraordinary work on cleaning that up. I think we're one of the top 3 states in union on mail-in ballots. So, but we've also we won 2 very good immigration cases, and also we really, one of the Supreme Court decisions that's pretty profound is the fact that these bureaucrats who were appointed that were making unbelievable decisions here that affect all of us. The president now has the right to fire those people.
Yeah, outside of, I think, Federal Reserve leaders, he can fire basically any independent agency official that he wants without cause.
Yeah.
And which, I mean, kind of makes sense in a way, right? Because
he's the chief executive of the executive branch. I mean, he's the boss, and they are at-will employees.
I think the only one that wasn't was Lisa Cook, and that's only because she's got
federal
legislation against her, and so they decided not to rule on that one while the lawsuit's still going on, right?
Well, the Federal Reserve is not part of the executive branch. It kind of stands on its own, and they're basically saying that if you just decide you want to fire that person, you have to kind of give them some due process.
Yeah.
I like the president having that power to walk in and go, oh, by the way, you clean out your desk.
Well, to me, it's no different than the president being able to appoint their own cabinet. Those people are replaced every time, or all the time.
Well, good, bad, or indifferent. I think it made sense that I disagreed with the mail-in ballot issue. I think that having the ballot postmarked is versus on election day is substantial, but I think we've got to clean up some things. And I think the president is spot on when he says we've got to have the SAVE Act. I mean, I was at Hallettsville last night and addressing a GOP crowd there. And I mean, 3 or 4 ladies stood up and said, look, you've got to have an ID card for so much of life today.
Yeah.
And to simply not require that for a vote here in our country is just almost fraud. We got the same examples: the library card to check out a book, which is pretty profound. So
are there any Republicans that are? I mean, objectively, are there any Republicans, except maybe John Cornyn, who are against the SAVE Act that think it's not fair?
Well,
is there any division within the party over this? Because it seems like the only reason the Democrats would want it is to cheat.
Well, are you showing? You can tell how much the Democrats hate it because it's fought so hard. I mean, they fight what they hate. So, I mean, have you found any good justifications for Republicans or for anyone to not vote for the SAVE Act?
I have not, because it just makes such perfect sense to me that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not seeing a lot of justification. I'm not seeing why they're not voting for it.
And I guess what I don't understand here is when I go vote, now I don't have to take my voter registration card, but even if I do, they want to see my ID to know that that's me. Mr. Carter, do you still live at this address? Yes, I do. Yeah. Okay, here's your ballot. It seems like we have that in our community already.
In the 2024 election, 174 million people were eligible to vote. So, you're 18, you're presumably a citizen. 213 million Americans have credit cards. You need a lot of ID to get a credit card.
you know,
Yeah, you
there's,
need a social security
Yeah.
number. That
So
checks
you're telling
out.
me that these same people who can get a credit card are complaining they can't vote? Give me a break on
well,
that
there's a
one.
long list of
Yeah.
reasons or justifications for having a valid ID. So that's, you know,
Yeah. And I
really
and,
beyond debate for me.
and it may be my memory playing tricks on me, but I seem to recall at one point you had to request a mail-in ballot at least 2 weeks before election day, and it had to be sent in and received before election day, not just postmarked on. I could be wrong about that, but I seem to recall those were the rules in place
They were saying
years
that
ago.
California may do away with the postmark and that there's no guarantee. And that's kind of where the Supreme Court was going. Well, what happens if there's not a postmark? And what happens if they don't guarantee you? And I think one of the other states said, well, we're not going to guarantee you that we're going to postmark it the day you put it in the box, because the postmark only seems to matter for things like voting.
Standard procedure for California.
Yes, sir.
Just
How
lawless.
can we fight it?
I've got a problem with just sending everybody a mail-in ballot. I mean, how do you even assure that the people that are at that address are the ones supposed to receive it, right? I don't know.
Well, they're going to exploit every area. So a rare lull.
Yeah, no, just trying
to catch up on
some of the
comments.
comments and see if they are pertinent.
Linda Chris says instead of election day, we now have election year. Well, we really
An
don't.
election season.
But yeah, it's become more that. But you know, I don't
Election
know.
cycle.
Yeah, I don't know if 5 days is 5 days too many. I could think it is. I mean, you know, it shouldn't take 5 days to get a
Yeah, but
ballot.
sometimes, you know, if you mail something in Victoria, it goes to Corpus and gets stamped and sent back to you, and it's going by vehicle. You know, if you had some weather involved, I mean, 5 days could happen pretty quick, and we all joke about it being snail mail.
Mississippi's not that big.
No, that's true.
Certainly could. Certainly
What
could.
do you have going, sir? Are you traveling today?
No, I've got one of the VDEC here in a little bit, and you know, visit that and see what's going on. And I've got some teams meetings here. I think at 11 o'clock I've got to get on. But you know, of interest, I think last week, really for the listeners, is we just got finished with the Democratic Convention, and
Did you go down?
well, we were there in Corpus. That we did a press conference in the Holiday Inn hotel there, and it was really pretty profound. It was very different, obviously, than the narrative established by the Democrats and the party line that they espouse. But there were several things that were very different about the convention there. I think we had the Talarico tacos, which is pretty comical about what that was going on. I think we had a large bull that was roaming the neighborhood, and you know, said, you know, it had a flag on it which said don't buy the bull.
Nice.
And a man behind it carrying a couple of pails for, you know, all for the VS.
Nice.
So, and they had a couple of big trucks that were strategically parked around the area, which had huge billboards on you know, the different Democratic things, from the back mic, front mic, from Pelosi, Schumer, all the big wigs in the DNC were on display, and the things that they talked about, and really highlighted the differences between Republicans and Democrats.
Well, I'm glad to see that the Republicans are finally kind of standing up and being demanded to be noticed, as opposed to just kind of sitting on the sidelines doing what we do while the Democrats create all the spectacle. Politics is spectacle. There's times that you've got to do something to
a lot
make
of theater.
think. Yes, sir. There's been some comments over here about do you have any just highlight or off the top just data about what's going on with school vouchers, and how did that play out this year? What is your take on the future of the school voucher program?
Well, I think the voucher issue is pretty well set now. I think it's very popular as evidenced by the new wave of applications that came in for it. And it's really with parents choosing their kids' education. So parental freedom to do that, and public school's an option there. But there's other options now in a small degree. So if you're not satisfied with public school, and we can't force you to go to public school, then you have some options to go. Mm-hmm. So the idea, because the public education system, which I definitely want to improve. I want to improve all education for kids. I don't care where they go, whether they go to homeschool, whether they go to private school, whether they go to public school. I think a better educated child, the outcome of a child's education is crucial to our success as a state and as a nation. And so adopting a no voucher mindset, instead of having one where parental freedom and picking and choosing where you think it's what's best suited for your child to be educated. I mean, these are powerful moments in life that affect kids, that affect children.
Did the voucher program have the participation that was expected? I know there was some guidelines set up that said that
priorities,
special needs kids,
priorities.
How did that play out the way the state anticipated?
Well, absolutely. It took all the money, special needs and low income. So
that was the first 100,000 vouchers. All ended up going to those kids.
All the dollars went to that. And so there will be some other substantive changes. I think there's a real possibility that vouchers will be plussed up a little bit. I'm not real sure. I haven't heard any figures on it lately because, today, the hot topic for the last several months is essentially water. I mean, this will be a water session as we strive to strike a balance between common sense water usage, and then of course data centers, AI centers, and in business in general.
They've become the target, right? The data centers has become the target of water abuse.
Yeah,
much like
it's just
coal plants and global warming.
Well, and drought doesn't help it, and really in this area, we suffer from the corporate syndrome, and so there's a very real fear out here. Even last night again, that there's a very real fear, and there's a negative narrative that's been established about data centers or AI centers, or essentially all businesses can come in and drain your aquifer where we have insufficient supplies of water, and so that's a concern.
What would happen aside from a lawsuit? What would happen if, let's just say, the folks that control Texana just said, "Hey, Corpus, man, we love you. Can't afford to send you all this water anymore. It's just not going to happen anymore. You guys need to get your desal plant going. It's y'all's problem. Good luck. We need this water for our own communities." Because you could satisfy all the water that Corpus siphons could go a long way to help Victoria and Jackson counties.
Well, it helps people in San Patricio County too.
Yes,
so,
sir.
I mean, it's a water source out here.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I think this region needs to figure out a way to work with these data centers. I saw a figure the other day. The data centers alone are responsible for 5 million jobs in this country. Think about that. There'd be a whole lot more unemployment if data centers didn't exist. Victorians are always complaining there's not enough industry here. Now you've got an industry that wants to come here, and too many people are complaining. And then on the other side of their mouth, they'll yell, "Well, our taxes are too high." Well, you're doing absolutely nothing to broaden that tax base. And if Victoria doesn't figure this out, another region of the state will, and they will be the next economic boom. And again, like we have been for the last 30 years, Victorians are going to be sitting there going, "How did we miss out on this?" That's where we are right now. So figure out a way to get it done with the data centers, and let's get it done, Victoria, because this community has suffered long enough from inaction and a leadership, not the current one, because they seem to be wanting to do things. But for 20 years of my 30 years here, we had a leadership in the city and the county that didn't want to grow. And now we're reaping the lack of benefits because our roads are suffering, our taxes are rising. We can't keep up with the infrastructure demands as they are now. Figure this out, Victoria, and let's get on the front end of an industry instead of trying to chase the back end of an industry that never comes here, like Toyota and others that came to Floresville and outside of San Antonio.
It's
That's
a doom
where
and
we are
gloom
now.
Tuesday.
No,
Thank
it's not a
goodness.
doom and gloom. It's an opportunity that's going to be missed again because that's what Victoria does, is miss opportunities.
What say ye, Mr. State Rep?
Look, it all, maybe there's a rare shot at balance and common sense here. So,
That's all I'm saying.
let's solve the water problem. So let's balance out the water issue. So, and we can alleviate that where citizens here in our state, in a particular county, are assured that when they come home, water's going to come out of the tap.
Yes, sir.
And so I think if we take that away, then I think we can systematically look at and analyze with common sense whether a data center location will work. And I think you've got a lot of work on the data centers and AI centers. They've got a lot of work to do because they're expecting to come into rural Texas and not do their homework. So when you come into rural Texas, it's different than coming into urban Texas. And so we've got I've been very critical on some of them that have come in and they haven't prepped the area. They haven't educated the area on what they're going to do, on how much water. And I'll tell you another thing, which is really concerning. As an indication of this whole plan, is that the House Resources Committee met last week, and one of the main requirements from the PUC was a water usage plan on what they were going to require for data centers, AI centers here in the state of Texas. And that request was months ago and was a very direct letter to them. And very, very few responded at all.
Isn't there going to be a legislation surrounding the idea of a closed loop system that they're not going to quote unquote use any more water, because it's essentially going to be like the radiator in your car that cools your car. You don't use water. It has water in it.
You do have to have an initial supply. What is that amount going to be? And what is it? What's the evaporation? So there's a lot of technicality here on what actually a closed loop system, and how efficient is your closed loop system, and how much residual water are you going to lose? How much are you going to need back? And so all these questions have to be answered to the satisfaction of the public, our constituents. Mm-hmm. And so, my main goal is to rationalize some common sense out of this. We want business. We want the dollars that go along with that. The city, county, and the state all look for that. So Governor Abbott's been very good at bringing in businesses here, but we're also bringing in 12 to 1,500 people a day here in Texas. So these are all things that have to be factored in on how we establish that business climate here in a particular county. And I'm in a unique situation because I've got counties in my district that don't want data centers and have a very organized, structured,
Right.
argument against it. And I have counties that do want, and they've got their hand up. We need industry. So, and
where does Victoria fall? What's the general blow of the wind for you?
I think the majority of most Victorian counties, they definitely want to take a look at this, and if it makes sense and it fits the county, I think they want to do it. We have Blue Energy, which is a nuclear project. Also, it has a data center attached to it. And I went to Commissioner's Court yesterday and listened to some of the arguments there, and duly noted. They're noted as to. But we'll see if we can't get some questions answered.
I understand this is not an AI data center, though, correct?
Well, I'm not sure, but it's known as a data center. So that's for
Which
most.
is just a fancy term for server room, basically.
Yeah. It's just data storage is all it is.
Yeah.
That's what they do, and we've had them for 25 years.
Yeah.
They're all over the nation right now because your phones wouldn't work without them.
Well, and because everybody's moved to cloud computing, that's a huge part of it. So, it's not all AI driven, even though that seems to be part of it. I want to address something because we've got an incessant commenter saying that the state did not live up to the promise of the $30,000 for special education. And my research indicates that $30,000 was the maximum amount that could have been given to special education families if they met all the criteria. And it appears that there's only a handful of people in the state that applied for the special education vouchers that actually met all the criteria to get the full 30,000. It wasn't promised as every special education student was going to get $30,000. If it was, I think that was probably a misleading press who was doing that purposely. But there's a quote from, I'm reading this in the Houston Chronicle this morning from Travis Pillow, who's the communications director for the education accounts, and says, our communication was students in special education get up to $30,000, and we were consistent in getting that message out that it was up to, not everybody was going to get that amount.
Well, all across the state, we've got folks who are never going to be satisfied with the amount of money that the state puts into public
That's
education. Right. And so there's just no way to satisfy the incessant demand for money. I mean, we have a relentless pursuit of just more dollars in that education. The outcome of a child's education is solely dependent upon, our tax money. So, I mean, that's an idea. We plussed that up almost $9 billion this year, but still that wasn't enough for some folks.
I have, it's an unpopular social opinion, but it's accurate. I have a problem with the idea that we're all of a sudden going to tailor everything about our public schools to the accommodation of the special ed student. I think we should structure our schools to deal with our very best and brightest and accommodate those with special needs, not focus everything on those with special needs and then let the quote unquote, Main Street kid just kind of take what's left. So I understand. I think there's a place, there's a real fine line, because you get caught. If I said to you privately, AJ, why don't we just create a school? And I'm saying like the Vine School or somewhere that's just, it's designed for those with special needs. Well, then all of a sudden you get into, are we separate but equal? Is it Brown versus the Board of Education? Is it fair? Are you labeling that child? Are you rat-holing that child into a special facility? It's kind of contra to what public education has done for the last 3 decades. Was we've got to get all these kids into our schools, and now you've got educators chasing kids that just decide to take off and run down the street. There's so much wasted time spent on kids that aren't the best and brightest. So I applaud what I have watched in the House and with Dr. Brad Buckley and folks like yourself who have said, hey, we're going to find a way to make Texas a leader in the nation in education. And the way to do that is to find ways for education to promote our best and brightest while accommodating every child.
Absolutely. I mean, we're looking at and my goal is number one. I mean, in the nation, we need to be we need to go up in our educational standards and our things. And I think we're making moves to do that. It takes time to do it, and obviously, we're not going to have everyone disagree. I mean, we've got our public school advocates, which I'm a public school advocate.
Well, you're a public school product.
I'm a product of that. So but it is actually paramount that we look at the outcome of a child's education.
Absolutely.
And so give them the ability to a parent to actually choose. In public school, overwhelmingly in the urban, in the rural world, are public schools. I mean, that's what we've got.
Well, one of our valuable school board members, BJ Nelson, says, so Brent, we've kind of gone full circle at that point. And we have. I just don't think that it makes sense to have schools. There are kids in our public schools that will never live on their own, will never have jobs, Well, and our schools are essentially an 8-hour-a-day babysitting service for these kids. I don't want to send them off somewhere, but I also don't want to make like there's 50 comments on this program today about special needs kids. At some point, let's focus on the future doctors and lawyers and engineers. That's where we need to focus.
Well, I think their lane is there. I think it's set. And I think it's working well there. The focus right now is to give this extra dollars to parents to take care of their special needs kids.
That's right.
And to take care of our low income kids who don't have some of those opportunities that others do. So, I mean, it's a good program. We'll see where it goes. We'll see how much it gets plussed up this next year.
I applaud our current school board for being astute enough to understand that it's not just a function of, there's nothing wrong with a voucher program. We've had school boards in the past that believed, give me 100% of the state's budget for everything. If you're getting 48%, and we turn it into 98% in 2 years, in the next session, they'd want the other 2%. And they're convinced through their narcissistic egos, we know what's best for every child. We will give it back to you. Remember this phrase? We'll give it back to you in superior services. BS. I don't need your services. Teach my kid about the Constitution. Teach my kid about what it means to be an American. Teach them how to make change. What if we just had a money?
We don't need to anymore. There's no pennies.
Come on. I mean, that's where I'm at. It's like, I don't need, and that's one thing, we don't have a bunch of self-righteous people on our school board currently that believe they've got all the answers, and they seem willing to work with you guys.
We're visiting with State Representative AJ Louderback, who represents Texas House District 30. For those of you on Magic and can't see the billboard,
you can feel the presence of the state rep through the radio.
Well, let me say, BISD has done a great job.
Amen.
I mean, they are improving education here in this district, and I hope that all of our school boards are as responsive as this one.
I agree 100%.
Miss Nelson, Micah Patton, those Rick Jones. I mean, they've done a really good job turning this thing around and producing a better educated child.
100%.
And as long as we stay in that lane, become more efficient, smarter, and produce a better outcome, then public schools will thrive.
That's right.
It's the ones who don't. And the ones who make poor decisions, make bad financial decisions, those are the ones that don't.
The question is asked, shall we change the Constitution in Texas regarding guarantee of free public education? See, anytime you see free in association with the government, change that question to, shall we change the Constitution in Texas regarding the guarantee of taxpayer-funded public
government
education? And I am saying that we should change the method of which that education is provided, and the days of the 8-hour babysitter are over.
Texas Tribune reported that children with disabilities are eligible for the same funding as other students, plus up to $30,000 in additional money for special needs. Up to. So not just the PR firm. That's the Texas Tribune reporting this after the legislation was passed in 2025. So if we can just because you feel
just put that to
something
bed.
Was promised,
got to get the details.
Yeah.
Listen,
and why
guys, I've got to jump, but
yes, sir.
But great conversation this morning.
Absolutely, it's always a joy to have you here.
For
yes, sir.
Tuesday.
For a No News Tuesday, it's
Absolutely.
always great to have you in, sir.
Appreciate y'all.
Hey, you travel safe, and we'll give you a clear screen to get out. Yep. Thank you. That was our representative, Sheriff AJ Louderback, who is absolutely a proponent of public education. He's a product of the public school. Folks, Vera Cruz Restaurant inviting you in on a Tuesday, pre-caldo Wednesday, Tuesday. So you can come in today and have everything but the caldo de res. Get in today for the best Tex-Mex in the community. Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. Allen's is your go-to. Allen's is the people you need to call if you end up in a ditch on the side of the road, wherever your problems may be. Went services, call them before you have problems. You need a new outlet, a new plug, a breaker keeps flipping. It's there to warn you. You have a problem. Let Went send out a licensed electrician to review the problem and solve it for you, including, especially this time of year, a turnkey generator installed at your home.
You've got a reprieve right now because it doesn't look like there's any anticipated activity in the Gulf.
That's right. Paravita Wellness and the Vita Cafe. I saw a billboard yesterday for the Vita Cafe.
Did you?
Yeah, but it's not near as good as us telling you that if you get in, the Vita Cafe can help you. Man, you can go in and order stuff based on your macros. I need so many grams of protein. I need so many grams of carbs. I don't want any gluten. I don't want any preservatives. I want it to be fresh, and it will be. You will love it.
And delicious.
There you go. USA Foundation Repair. USA Foundation Repair helping you level your slab, level your driveway. They can put down a tough as nails polyurethane coat that won't.
Crock stick pillar fade.
Yep. You would be for that. Get in and talk to them today. Welcome back live to the Atzenhofer studio, where for over 100 years now, Atzenhofer has been Victoria's dealership. James Kerr says Went is flying a beautiful, huge,
big
American flag right out on the road front. That's
bigger than it ever was.
It's super duper. It's going to be terrific.
Yep.
It's great.
Just to put Atzenhofer into perspective, American Airlines has been around for 100 years.
Yeah. Of course, the airplane invented right here in the United States of America.
Yep. The Wright brothers were here.
No doubt about it. So
let's see what else is happening today. I don't know. What do you think is going to happen with the SCOTUS? I mean, we talked about what we think should happen with birthright citizenship.
My gut tells me they're not going to topple that apple cart.
I agree.
You know why? I'll tell you why. In part because the lunatic left would become unhinged. And they know that as Republicans and conservative people that we will just sit back and take it. And I think that in the backs of their minds, they are still just 9 human beings. In the backs of their minds, they're going to say, well, it's been this way for a couple of 100 years. And, what the heck? 150 years anyway. Let's just let it ride out. That's what I think is going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's wrong. There is no logic. You can't give me any logic that somebody just having a kid here whose parents don't speak the language, who they're not even trying to assimilate. Maybe they honestly are just here on a work visa and happen to have a kid. Why should that kid be able to come back to the United States and be a citizen and vote in our elections? They go back to China. They're raised in China. They're raised in Uganda. They come here and become Zoran Mamdani. I mean, why? Why invite that? You are not a country without sovereign borders. You're not a country without some type of assimilation. You look at places like Switzerland, even Germany. Germany's got political dissent, but they all have something in common. The idea, a melting pot, I'm sorry, folks, it is not good. You need to have something in common.
I think the melting pot is good because everybody
as long
at
as
that
it all
point,
melts into becoming queso.
Well, and that's
but you don't want to have a melting pot where you've got oil over here and water over there and vinegar over here.
It's no longer a melting pot.
That's right. You got to shake it up.
That's what Canada referred to as a cultural mosaic, where you could come to Canada and still be
who you want
to be.
You can be a French arse and just live in Quebec.
Whereas the U.S. at one point wanted everybody to come here and become Americans. That was the melting pot. We've gone away from that. And if you look at what's going on in Europe right now, it's a warning to this country and to Western civilization as to what unfettered immigration does to a country. Poland's about the only one, and I think maybe one of the former Czech Republic or Slovakia, but everybody else is looking to Poland as the leader in Europe
Yeah.
for preserving your heritage.
Yeah.
The other countries are so far gone, they can't do anything to reverse the tide of unfettered immigration. And they're losing the fights.
Wow. I would not have known this. Number one, 16 million cars were sold in the U.S. last year, 25. General Motors led all automakers at 2.9 million out of the 16. I would not have known. I would have assumed Ford was second. Toyota was second at 2.5. Ford at 2.2. Now, Hyundai, Kia, are they family?
Yes.
I did not know that. They were fourth at 1.8 million. Honda was fifth at 1.4. Stellantis, the successor to Chrysler, landed at 1.3, and Tesla was ninth at 589,000.
Yeah. Trying to see what
What
vehicles top the list. I don't know if we'll see that.
I don't know. That would have been like show prep,
Yeah.
but we didn't. It's a live program.
I don't know whether they broke it down.
We don't get involved in that. Yeah.
No, we did.
Must have been the Chevy Suburban, Tahoe, Cadillac, Escalade, Yukon. That must be the number one vehicle.
I think the F-150 is still the best selling
American-made car.
Truck.
Yeah.
But I know the Camry was tops, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I don't know.
Does Ford even make a car anymore? No. They don't make the Escape.
No, I think they just pulled the plug on the Escape.
There you go.
Yeah. So, let's see what else has happened in the world today that we need to talk about before we get to the First State Bank of Louise Astros update.
Oh, do we have to?
Well, yeah, we
have to talk about the First State Bank of Louise, the friendliest little bank anywhere. They're big enough to get it done and small enough to know you by name. I don't know what else to tell you. They're a fantastic bank for commercial lending, for personal lending. Free checking, absolutely free. If you do it online where they don't send you a paper statement, man.
And I think
free checking and savings.
And I think they're one of the few in this region that are actually doing construction loans if you want to build a home. So
yeah.
Astros lose 5-4 to the Twins as they return home. It just seems that the Astros are struggling at home.
Yep. Says on Monday, the Supreme Court declined to review President Trump's appeal of the $5 million jury verdict in the E. Jean Carroll sexual abuse and defamation case, thus leaving the award intact. I think that was the right decision. Civil verdicts don't typically end up in front of the Supreme Court. The only reason it would be there is because he's the president of the United States, and I don't believe that he deserves that extra layer of consideration.
Yeah,
I think the court got it right more times than not. I believe the Supreme Court got it right. Victor Hovland won the Travelers over number one in the world, Scotty Scheffler, in a one-hole playoff. He made birdie
yesterday morning.
Scheffler missed one. That putt cost Scotty Scheffler $1.4 million.
Here's an interesting headline. Former NBA guard Malik Beasley indicted yesterday on federal charges related to sports betting schemes involving point shaving and prop bets. This is the danger that you and I talked about when all these sports betting apps started appearing and became legal outside of Vegas and New Jersey. And now I think DraftKings and a couple others are allowed in Texas.
To me, it seems hypocritical to a degree that you have a kid like the Sorsby kid. I think his name's Brendan maybe. Anyway, Texas Tech's quarterback that came in from Cincinnati. Is that right?
Yes.
The kid comes in and he admits, I've gambled on games. I gambled on games that I suited up for. Now, I didn't actually end up playing in those games, but I did gamble on those games. And then he goes on, Pete Rose-ish, to say, I bet on our team to win. Well, there's a thing called a spread. And, if my team is up, let's just say my team is up and the spread is 5 and we're up by 7 with 2 minutes to play. hey, my team's still going to win, but I'm going to throw 3 incomplete passes here on the 10-yard line because I took the points.
Yeah.
I bet we were going to win, but I also bet that we would only win by 3. The next thing you know, the integrity of the game falls into question. And we've all had things. You and I have sat and watched games together where we go, wow, Fromber must be on the take. And we laugh about it because it's implausible.
But then you find out you got 2 pitchers for the Cleveland Indians, Guardians,
that's right,
have been, charged with fixing games.
That's right.
And betting.
And if that happens, because look, the NFL, I'll tell you this, I don't believe the NFL exists as you know it, nor is the NFL anywhere near as accessible without gambling.
Neither is the English Premier League, and this is an interesting one. If the U.S. wins the World Cup, it would cost U.S. sportsbooks more money than if any other team wins the World Cup because of heavy public betting by Americans who think that America has home field advantage and can win it.
Yeah, which is, fortunately, that's not going to be the case.
And the Americans' first 2 wins, the most bet soccer games in the histories of several sports books.
Not to mention, you see yesterday, Germany got beat by Paraguay.
Yeah, in penalty kicks.
Morocco
Beat the Netherlands in penalty kicks. Canada will now play Morocco on Saturday in Houston. In the round of 16, I think that's the first time either one of those countries have gone that far. It's interesting.
In other news,
Brand's still the favorite to win.
Astros lose last night 5-4. Peter Lambert had been 4-0 over his last 6 starts. The Astros had been 5-1 over his last 6 starts. He's 6-4 on the year, doing well. However, the Astros last night fell behind. Victor Caratini hit one to dead away center field. The Astros were down 2-0 early. They were down 4-1 and 5-1 for a large portion of the game, and they finally lost 5-4. Hey, they've been 5-2 over their last 7, so now they're 5-3 over their last 8. If you win 63% of your games, you go to the playoffs.
6-4 over the last 10, 2 games back of the Rangers for the lead in the AL West. Seattle sits between them, a half game out of Texas. So.
They're fine. They just need to be this consistent going forward.
Yeah.
Where does Minnesota fall as far as
41-45 now? So there's the record's similar to the Astros. They're underachieving for sure.
Yeah.
Compared to what Minnesota fans were expecting up in the Twin Cities. But yeah.
And what happened on this date? So it's really on this day in 1882, the U.S. Army dismissed Second Lieutenant 1882 Henry O. Flipper, the first black graduate of West Point, for conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. He had served with the 10th Cavalry at Fort Davis. Flipper maintained his innocence until his death. Okay, so what did he do, supposedly?
I don't know. And in 1976, the Army granted Flipper an honorable discharge.
There you go. Let's click on Henry O. Flipper and see what he did. Good-looking kid.
Good-looking guy, yep.
Same uniform they wear today.
Just says conduct.
Flipper believed he was the victim of persecution and is said to have been warned by civilians at the post of a plot by white officers to force him from the Army. You're talking about 15 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. So the following year, when he discovered post funds missing from his quarters, he attempted to conceal the loss until he could find or replace the money. When Shafter learned of the discrepancy, he immediately filed charges against, because he was made quartermaster at Fort Davis.
Yeah, Colonel Shafter apparently
gave him the shaft. Maybe that's where that came from.
Yeah. The court-martial acquitted him of embezzlement,
but pronounced him guilty of conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman. So they wanted him out of the Army, probably.
So he was trying to. Here's my guess what happened. If what we're reading here on what is this? Texas State Historical Association. I'm guessing some white guys that wanted him gone broke into his quarters, stole money that belonged to the unit, and he wanted to replace it because he did not want to be accused of stealing it. And then, they just so happened to do a search and found the money missing.
Right.
And and then forced him out. At least that's kind of my reading between the lines on this one.
There
Because
you
the
go.
times were the times back then.
Those
and
were the times.
they did not want a black guy in their regiment. So
There
hey,
you
look
go.
at that.
Hey,
Straight up top
I
of the
love
hour.
the comments that you guys are sharing with
Yeah.
each other.
Appreciate
The
the
interaction.
interaction.
BJ, thank you for your involvement. And thank you, BJ Nelson, for your service on our school board. You have elevated the program. Have a great day, folks. We love you, and bye-bye.
Bye, folks.